we're going to have a look at some of the examples of constraints. Looking at the bounding volumes, we can see on the rig, when I move the leg up, is that there are nulls which actually have a bounding volume constraint. So they will start to move when hitting the surface. We can select this and we can see the constraint selected. It has 2, which seems a pose constraint towards the upper here, and the constraint there. If I hit enter, there we can see it's on the outside on the surface. Enveloping to the null will also help to determine where the bend will happen. If I move this back down, we can also have a look at some other combinations of constraints. Let's start by looking at the fill light rig nulls here. So what we have is a property page which has yet to be installed in terms of a layout and tabs and that sort of thing. If I go down to the fill light, there we go. So what we have are sliders which we want to be able to move this light around, move it up and down, as well as move it in and out, together with what it's looking at, to be able to do the same. All of this without creating a cycle. Let's move this around here. We can have a look at the constraints inside the schematic. Let's start with the fill light. It currently has a number of constraints, and we can also see the direction of these constraints. We have a positional constraint to a null, and the null will then have a path constraint to the rig. It's probably better to do this with nulls onto the path and then attach it. It's so that you have some freedom to move off the null rather than being part of the path constraint. If we select the path constraint and have a look, you can see that these percentages are linked to those sliders. So that here, even with tangency activated, it means that this will now be able to move off independently. We also have 2-point constraints. You can see here it's pointing at this null and this null. And this is designed so that we can have a sliding movement. So if we have a look, there's the 2 points, and it's controlling the dollying effect. And if we have a look at those nulls, we have them here, the plus and minus, and these are directionally constrained towards the fill path null. So it's really layering of the constraints to be able to control the movement without creating a cycle.